Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Tea with Marquines.
Hello everyone.
And myself, my name is Maria. And today we're going to do a summer version and we're going to be drinking lemonade and lemonade.
Too hot.
Because it's very hot. Take your favorite drink and join us for this short conversation with the title, What If I Don't Get It?
What if I don't get it?
So you must be wondering, what if I don't get what? So here's the story.
Please explain.
The genesis for this video. In the Language of Design course, Mark decided to really put a strong emphasis on the history of art. So a lot of slideshows, a lot of examples that he used for exercises, but also for learning about all the elements and the principles of design. And a couple of artists came back to us with a question. Well, okay, I understand you want us to look into this artist, but what if I don't like it? What if I don't get it? How can I still learn from this particular artist, even if it's so far away and so remote from what I do in my studio, from what I like?
Yeah.
So we thought that there would be an interesting topic for this conversation, and we wanted to put it beyond the language of design for artists all over so that we can hear also back from you. We're just curious. So yeah, what do you have to say? How do we learn from someone even if I don't get it?
Interesting topic.
Yeah.
And I get this a lot over the years. So I'll start with an anecdote. And this anecdote has to do with a class that I taught many years ago at a junior college. The demographic of the students ranged from age quite a bit, but also in terms of experience. It was a class in drawing, and it was not necessarily a group, young or old, that intended to go on and make it as artists. They just simply wanted to learn more about art and about drawing. So you start with that. Well, there was a show at the Museum of Modern Art at the time of Richard Diebenkorn's work, both drawings and paintings, as well as Alexander Calder, the sculptor who did some amazing wire pieces. So I thought, hey, this is great. I asked the whole class to go and see the show on their own, gave them a couple weeks to go do that, and we would report back. So when they came back after seeing the show, I asked them, so what was it like? How did it go? And the first reply was a woman, middle-aged, very nice woman, who said, I hated it. Really.
Not what you want to hear.
Not what I thought I was going to hear. And I saw other people nodding yes vigorously with their. I thought, okay, where's this going to go? And then I said, well, what did you hate? She goes, everything. Everything? Yes, I hated his work. I hated the building, so much of the work. And then I stopped and thought, Maria, okay, why is this happening? This is strong. This is a strong reaction. So I said, well, can you tell me more about exactly what's going on? And she said, I didn't get it. And I saw other people nodding yes. So I thought, oh, okay, they're in the hallowed halls of the Museum of Modern Art. They probably haven't had much exposure, obviously, to modern art, let alone the lineage of modern art. And I've thrown them into a gallery of Richard Diebenkorn's abstractions, etc. And there was no basis for understanding, let alone appreciating the work. So I said, okay, I get this now. It's really a strong emotion, but let me help you understand something. And I started by saying, I happen to be ignorant of a great many things. Even in my own expertise, there's a lot of artists I don't know and I haven't seen their work. But I realized that in all the arts, take music for instance, there's so many different kinds. There's folk and classical, rock and jazz, there's rap. And I realized, oh, just because it's art doesn't mean it's going to be accessible to everyone, let alone something they could enjoy. So I began talking about the nature of ignorance, not to put them down, but to say we're all ignorant of so much. And then I tried to explain as best I could that in order to, in this case, understand or appreciate a given art or artist, it requires, first of all, desire. An openness and a desire to learn more about a given artist or an art period.
Or an art form.
Or an art form. And that through taking the time of learning more and studying the development of, the history of, the lineage of, that is an inroad to understanding, and that is an inroad to appreciation, at least understanding, if not appreciation, and maybe even resonance. So when I was writing this, one artist who was asking about, I think it was either Cy Twombly or Franz Klein, they were both mentioned. I used the analogy of music again. I said, well, I like a lot of different kinds of music, but I'm not a fan of rap. It's just not my generation. But the other day I was talking with my nephew who grew up on rap.
Yeah.
And we had a very interesting conversation. So there's this great history of rap going all the way back. And I realized, oh, so if I took a whole college course, let's say, in the history of rap, studied its development, its origins, the various musicians, the lyrics, the message, the sociological aspect around it, all of it, listen to a lot of rap, try to get the lyrics, maybe by listening, then I can guarantee you at the end of that semester, in all likelihood, I would at least have an appreciation or understanding of that art form, rap, which has many different forms, which my nephew pointed out. And so that's the discussion we're having here today, particularly for those artists out there, and you may be one, who may have struggled trying to get it with a given individual art or artist.
So it sounds like your advice would be to just learn more. Is that it?
Not necessarily. It's deeper than that. The desire has to be there. I mean, there are certain forms of all kinds I don't care to learn. I just don't care to learn it. So I'm not going to learn rap. And when I listen to it, it'll probably not do much for me, unless it catches me on some level, maybe the beat or whatever. But no, I have a limited amount of time on the planet, and I'm decided I'm not going to devote that. But I will say this, and this is important to the conversation. Influences. There were artists in my early development as an artist that I gravitated towards, learned from, even emulated. And then as time passed, I didn't pay that much attention to them. For whatever reasons, it no longer spoke to me in the same way. Then I found myself looking at other artists. Conversely, there were artists in the beginning that I didn't appreciate. Classic example would be Morandi. I had an instructor, a mentor, Irma Cabot, in my junior year, and she was doing a slideshow, giving a slideshow of Morandi's work, the great Italian painter of still life. I didn't get it. Used this in her title. I didn't get it. I was 21 years old. What did I know? Even though I studied art history. So she's going on and on about this brilliant artist and his compositions and how magnificent they were. Of course, I'm seeing slides, and I'm thinking, I don't get this. It's a bunch of bottles. Who cares? But, and this is to our point, fast forward, Marie, about 10 years or more, and by then I'd gone to Europe, and I'd seen a lot of work, including his work in the flesh, which made a difference. And 10 years or 12 years later, there was a show of his at the Museum of Modern Art, the old one in San Francisco, and I was in tears. So how does that happen, you see? How does that happen? That happened because I had a hunger, a desire to learn more. And when I did, I had a deeper appreciation.
It makes me also think of the saying that when the student is ready, then the teacher appears.
Very much, yeah.
So speaking about other artists that we can learn from, so they do become our teachers in a way, dead or alive, through their work or through classes that we take with them, right? And the other thing I thought of was, in your case, because you're there, you work with people in person or online, it doesn't matter, but as a living teacher, I think that there is also this thing where students trust you. Even if they don't like something that you're presenting in front of them, they trust you that it's good for them. So they want to make that effort to learn, but then they face that difficulty of rejection because they don't resonate, they don't get it, they don't understand it, but they still want to do it. So there is this element, maybe I'm thinking now of this woman, of frustration, which is close to anger, and it can provoke anger. I was like, I hate it, I don't get it, I'm angry at myself for not getting it, I'm angry at you, it's like it's very layered and complicated. It's interesting to me. But I think that there is a little bit of that as well in certain instances, that you trust your teacher, but you know, there are things where you have to get out of your comfort zone in order to grow or to learn or to figure something new out.
Yes, and it comes back to desire and interest and an openness. When I bring books in for my students, I bring in all kinds of books, lay them out on the table for them to look at. I typically will say, you may not like or resonate with all of these artists, which is a given. So resonate and gravitate to the ones that you do for now. And I always use for now as the hook. That later your taste may change.
Right.
And let's be clear, there are any number of artists who you will never be interested in and have no desire to be interested in. I could have a long list of those, and that's fine too.
Right.
But I would ask artists out there who are listening to perhaps think about art periods or artwork or artists that you've struggled with, that you might think, God, I wish I got it. I don't see why everyone is fawning over, let's say, Cy Twombly. He would be a great one. My 3-year-old could do that, scribbles, right? Well, that's true. Your 3-year-old could do that, and probably some of that work is worth framing. Cy Twombly might say the same thing, but you understand what I'm saying now.
Right. Yeah, I think it's. I like what you just said. You know, start with what you like and then go from there, which I always promote. Like, be gentle to yourself and you know, always respect yourself first, and then kind of give yourself a soft entry. You don't have to always bang your head against the wall, but rather find your way through the wall in a softer way. So I like that. Start from what you like looking at, and then look at it with different sets of eyes. So maybe just pay attention to different things, milk everything you can out of it, and then things I think will open organically sometimes as well.
Now there's another layer here too, Maria, and if you recall, one of the artists who wrote back, I think it was Franz Klein, who she was trying to figure out. And she decided, okay, I'm going to look into this guy. Now the point I want to make here is an important one, and I explained it to the artists in the language of color and design. The vast majority of abstract painters of the 20th century had formal training, and there is a development over years as to how they got to a certain place in their work. Mondrian is a classic example. Started out as a Dutch painter of landscapes, and if you look at the work, you can see the development. Now this is key. This is really key. And I said to her, you know, if you had the good fortune of being in a museum that had all of Franz Klein's work from the beginning when he was a student all the way through, pick any artist that you're struck, you would all of a sudden go, oh, so that's how he got there. That's what he was looking at, and that's what he was thinking about. And further, if you had the good fortune of actually being in that space with the actual work in the flesh, getting this close to it, stepping back from it, and that is a very different experience, I keep saying this, than looking at a slide or a book or a screen. So these are really important layers to understanding, let alone appreciating and resonating, and maybe even being influenced by art that one doesn't get right away.
So what would be then your advice, just to sum it up in a few words?
Well, my advice is clearly the artists out there know of the artists that they really like, that they admire, respect, etc. But I'm thinking they also may have some artists in mind or art periods in mind where they're not so sure, where they either feel like they don't get it, they don't want to get it, or it doesn't work, but maybe they do want to understand more clearly. Well, then that requires what this other artist did. Research. And she said, look, the next time I have an opportunity to go see his work and I know where to go see it, I will. That requires effort.
Right.
So it does require effort.
I'm thinking of, you know, when you read any, let's say, scientific study, then you will have all these references.
Sure. Right?
And then you go into the references, and then from there you branch out. So I'm thinking, well, if you love an artist, maybe go into the reference of, okay, who was the influence to this artist? And start your research from there and go back. And then, well, what did this other artist get his knowledge from, what,
Really?
which period they belong to, and then go back and you might find certain artists or peers that you don't like, but you know that they led to the artists that you love, so maybe that will soften the blow a little bit.
There's a lineage.
Yeah.
And that artist may have influenced others, probably, you see.
So going
and then
history.
just going into history and seeing the lineage. It always comes back, Maria, to desire.
Yeah.
Without desire, not much takes place.
Right. And curiosity.
And curiosity. I think those two are related, so yes.
And then read about them, but also copy. Or you don't say copy, you say
I
emulate.
like to study another artist's work, or to transcribe, to emulate. That's a big part of the history of art.
Yeah.
And there's many ways to do that.
I talk a lot about that.
That's how I learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we hope that helps soften a little bit if you feel like, oh, I know that, you know, this is a great art name in art history, but somehow I don't get it. Am I stupid? Is there something wrong with me? Why don't I get this? So yeah, start doing a little bit of research, maybe make little sketches, or, you know, in color or black and white, it doesn't matter, with a pencil or watercolors or whatever medium you're working in, and see if you start having fun with it.
Yeah, you might surprise yourself. So Maria, I think after we're done with this, I'm going to go to my Spotify and bring up some rap music and see if I can better appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, all.
Thanks.